Welcome into Raptors today on another off day for your Toronto Raptors. Akil Augustine joined by the well-dressed Sherman Hamilton and, of course, our good friend, not Paul Jones. This is Randy Urban back at it again. 2 back-to-back days.
Back-to-back, yeah.
You're working. You're earning it.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to fill in for me later on in the season.
I got your back. Don't worry.
Thank you.
The dynamic.
You are well-dressed today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another hoodie.
It's either a suit or a hoodie with Sherman Hamilton. But let's talk about what's up next for the Toronto Raptors as they head into the final road trip of the season. A matchup that Sherm, of course, talked about yesterday, a very important one with the Philadelphia 76ers, coming off of a big win against Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, and the Dallas Mavericks. And let's first talk about Joel Embiid, a man who skipped out a game against someone I thought was your front runner for MVP in Nikola Jokic, but apparently we had some new conversation off air. But let's talk about Joel Embiid to start this show, Randy Urban, and what the Toronto Raptors have to do to slow him down, because we saw some interesting things. Raptors had a bunch of matchups with them earlier in the year, and Nick Nurse kind of junked things up for Joel Embiid and slowed him down. Do you expect that same approach, or has anything changed for this Raptors defensively when you look at Joel?
I think that the Raptors have done a good job traditionally trying to, slow him down, make him uncomfortable. So I think that with the addition of Jakob Poeltl, they're just going to do more of that type of stuff. They're going to crowd him at times. They're going to double him at times. They're going to make him, pass out of the double team, which he doesn't do a great job of. But to slow him down, the good thing about Embiid is that he slows himself down. Like, he doesn't really play at a pace. Watching the game last night, he still lumbers up and down the floor at times. And so you can take advantage of that with the Raptors' transition offense. You can take advantage of that just by playing with a better pace. But, of course, when he gets the ball in a spot or in a spot that he's comfortable in, he's so difficult to stop. So I think the key with him is to just do what I said at the beginning, was just do multiple things.
Keep him confused.
Yeah, keep him a little bit confused. And I think OG has done a great job guarding bigs, and I'd like to see some of OG on him as well. Even though he's going to give up 150 pounds, I still think that OG can disrupt him and cause some confusion for him.
Well, Nick Nurse has shown when he played against Jokic, he put OG on Jokic, and Jakob Poeltl is a legit 7-footer coming over with help, really changed the dynamic, especially the passing lanes. And, if you look at Embiid's game, he's a great scorer, he's a great rebounder, but his passing is where you can kind of attack him. And when you attack him, when he goes into his move, he spins, he puts the ball down, you surprise attack him on that play, and then the next time you mix it up, you throw a double team at him right away so he gives the ball up. You just have to keep him off balance, and I just think that he's so tough when he's engaged that if you're a Raptor team, you've got to give him a steady dose of different things. You know what I mean? It can't be a consistent dose of anything. But, the guy's a problem.
It's interesting you mentioned Yak coming over as the double, because Jakob kind of has a tendency to commit fouls, sometimes like unnecessary ticky-tack fouls. So if you have him coming across and just being that sort of, waving the arms kind of a guy, then it maybe keeps him out of foul trouble a little bit, because OG does a pretty good job of facing guys up on defense.
Defending without fouling.
Yeah.
Well, and again, we're talking about center of gravity. OG has a lower center of gravity, and he's strong. So when big guys want to make moves and you take away their lower base, that helps you defensively. But you can throw Scotty in there, too, to throw some defense on Embiid. Right. I just think sometimes you got to play to people's strengths. And I think Jakob is a good defender. I just think that in a help situation for a guy that doesn't necessarily pass the ball very well, coming over with size, to me, is a better option than having Yak straight up. And if you don't have to double team with OG and force Joel to take shots over the top, you have an advantage on the defensive glass.
Right, and Jakob Poeltl, I was just going to say, is such a great defensive rebounder. Like, if our team has changed completely since he's come over, just on that part of the game alone. He just clears rebounds so much better than what we had before.
Now, before we get off the subject of Joel Embiid, I just want to double check your MVP currently in the NBA.
I think it's still Jokic, but
whoa! Time out. You literally just said off air.
I said he might be like I had Joel Embiid probably a week or two ago. No, I still like Joel Embiid. He's always been one of my.
Literally not what you said 5 minutes ago.
The dancing juice right now.
Yes,
like literally before we came on air, you said
all season long
he was your MVP.
It was Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
And then about 2 weeks ago when we were on, I don't know if you were there when I did the NBA Excel shoot in the barbershop. I took Embiid just because they were playing well, and I think that being the leading scorer of a team where he has to do.
What is it today? Stop dancing.
What is it today?
What did you say today?
I still think it's probably Jokic by like a hair.
It's not what you said off camera.
No, I didn't.
I said Embiid
might be my MVP eventually.
Okay, all right.
That's what I said off camera.
As we move on, let's talk about the other guy.
Listening.
Let's talk about the other guy because you talked about the need to play fast against the Sixers team, and in order to play fast against any opposition, you got to create turnovers. The ball's going to be in the hands of James Harden a lot. Let's talk about how his game has evolved and changed because he used to be a guy that you'd say might go for 50, definitely going for more than 30 each and every night back when he was with Houston. This year, the story has changed. He's kind of accepted a new role. What are your impressions of the new version of James Harden that we watch on a night-to-night basis in Philly?
Well, first of all, he's a great player, and he's a great scorer. But if you want to win and you want to understand how to utilize the pieces of the puzzle properly, he had to come off the ball. He couldn't be that pound it, and go get it. You've got a potential MVP playing with you. You can't eat the ball. You can't eat the ball like that. So he's adjusted, and great players do that, and he understands. But he's still that guy when he needs to be. So it's a luxury to have him. And I think right now he's really settling into that. He's always been a great passer, but he's settling into that more traditional point guard role where it's really about the setup. It's about getting the ball to people in the right positions. And I just think that when he's playing like that, it changes the dynamic of the team because now you let Maxey loose. You know what I mean? Now he can go out there and he can do what he does, and Joel can do what he does. And you have to incorporate Tobias Harris. He's a good player. You need him involved, and a guy like James Harden can set the table for everybody. And I think that's kind of where he's kind of said, okay, I'm not going to score 30, but I can give you 15 assists. I can give you 10 assists. I can do that consistently, and he's been pretty good at that.
Yeah, I think he's evolved his game also based upon his physical, deterioration, right? Watching him, he's not the same player that he was last season, 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. I'm seeing a different. He's not as mobile. He's not using his speed as much. So I don't think that he's the same player physically.
And the rules have kind of worked against him. That he exploited certain aspects of how officials were officiating the game.
For sure. Like, this is a guy that averaged, almost 37 points per game, 36 points per game one year. That was not that long ago. And now he's down to 21. I think, to your point, he definitely has figured out that, I can't be the guy that's just monopolizing the ball all game long. But physically, I think that's a big thing. But he's so good, like you said, playmaking, head up, that I think he can play this way for a few more years at this pace. Like, he's got that skill set where he understands how to get fouled. He understands where guys are going, where to get them shots in good spots, so he can get those assists up. And even though he's not physically as fast, he's still strong. So he can get into the lane, he can get contact, he can finish in contact, and he's still an elite shooter. So it's worked out for Philadelphia because I think the way that he's kind of deteriorated physically to get to this, because I think Philadelphia wants to play that way. I prefer them to play a little bit more up-tempo because I think they do have some guys that can get out on the break. But his skill set right now fits what they're doing. And when I look at that team, they're built completely for the playoffs. And they've sort of figured it out too. They understand that these are formalities right now. I don't think Tobias is worried about shots. I think that Maxey is probably the only guy that's kind of worried about, let me get mine a little bit. Everybody else is kind of, all right, we run through Joel Embiid, and our best chance is through him. So let's just see how we're going to do around that.
The roles are defined. The pecking order
I have a good feeling about the way Philadelphia plays if they can get through things mentally. That's I think always been their biggest hurdle.
Speaking of who's in charge of the mental approach of the opposition, which is the Toronto Raptors, we head over to OVO for Nick Nurse.
Is he a fundamentally different player than the guy who shot 35% against you guys? Or the guy, I think in 2020 he showed up here, he pitched a shutout against him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he certainly feels really good about his perimeter shooting. right? And I think that enables him to not have to deal with a lot of extra bodies, a lot of extra bodying up, all those kind of things. He just clears, looks at you, and shoots over the top of you with his size, right? And seems like he goes through almost every game. He's just shooting it so well, like he just doesn't have too many bad games from that mid-range, right? It feels like he'll make 5 in a row, and that never feels good when you're playing against it usually, right? So that's one thing. I think the confidence he has in his perimeter jumper and even in his 3-ball and stuff makes it even more of a challenge, right? Because the post-ups, the early post-ups, the play call for post-ups, and then the rolling is also tough to deal with.
Pascal came into this season with big expectations of himself. How would you evaluate his performance this season?
I think he's been pretty good. I don't super study the numbers and where he was from a year ago, but I believe he's having some career numbers and some things, right? Especially assists and those kind of things. So, for me, we want those guys to be two-way players, right? And I think he's done that. I think he's been at times really, really good on the defensive end, right? And like with everybody else on the team, he has his moments where he's not. But I think I'm happy with his development of being a two-way player, OG's development, Scotty's. We want those guys to play both ends and keep improving. The offense is the one everybody wants to see improve for everybody, right? Defense just kind of, you're playing hard and you're doing it right and working hard and contesting shots and grabbing rebounds and things. You can. That's kind of at a point where it does improve. I think with all those things improving too, but it's kind of less. It's not as easy to see maybe. So I'm happy with his. I think he's played good this year. Yeah.
All right, you mentioned it, Randy, so we'll talk about it. Tyrese Maxiell, the other wild card for this Sixers group, and the Raptors very familiar. Career high against the Raptors earlier this year. He kind of blew up. And let's talk about it. If James Harden doesn't play, because we know he's been dealing with that Achilles injury for the last little bit, it's going to be the keys of the car in Maxi's hand, of course, when Embiid's not dominating inside. How do the Raptors match up with him? Because his speed has been a major issue for the Raptors defensively.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. He's so fast. And the good thing about Maxey is that he's improved his three-point shooting, too. So you got to pick your poison with him. He's an elite scorer in this league. They said on the broadcast, Jeff Van Gundy was saying in the broadcast that he's actually improved his defense, too. I was wondering how, when he came back from his injury this year, he was coming off the bench. I was wondering how long that was going to last because this is a guy that can fill it up in a hurry. How do you defend him? I think you put somebody bigger on him. I think I'd like to see maybe Scotty guard him and give him a little bit of space and close out on that three-point shot. I don't know. Tyrese Maxiell's a problem for me. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA, actually. I love watching that speed and the ability to shoot the ball.
Three-headed monster over there.
Well, yeah, and in addressing the fact that Philadelphia could play faster, he is a reason why they could play faster. He's a guy who can get out in transition. He can push the pace. He's got some really unorthodox finishes, and that becomes very difficult to defend. He's a right foot, right hand, floating away from the basket with
elite
touch.
Layup package.
100%. And with that kind of speed and that kind of touch, all you're waiting is for the seasoning, just the continual maturation of this young man, because his speed is really too much to deal with, and the fact that he can shoot it. I think when you're dealing with guys with speed, obviously you want them to shoot the ball more than take it to the hoop, but it's kind of a similar stance like with defending a Giannis. Mm-hmm. You get back, you build a wall, and you make him see bodies.
Yeah.
Because he's too quick, and if he gets into a seam, he's going to expose your back end of your defense. He's going to get to the rim, and he's going to finish. So you've got to get back. You've got to take good shots, be disciplined offensively, take good shots, and have excellent defensive balance because he will exploit the Raptors as a one-man fast break, which we've seen him do multiple times.
Well, the good thing is, too, I mentioned Scotty, but Precious also is a guy that can on 2 different possessions of a game, guard Joel Embiid and then James Harden. So I think Precious also has the foot speed and the length to be able to disrupt anything Maxi's doing, offensively as well. So the Raptors do have those types of options, of course. And then you can get Fred on the ball as well. Fred is not somebody that's unafraid of that challenge, right? Or afraid of that challenge. He can certainly get into somebody too, strip guys. Actually, I think the Raptors, now that I think about it, have a lot of options for Tyrese Maxiell, but you can't teach speed, and so Maxey always does. The offensive player always does have the advantage.
And it's interesting because we talk about Tyrese, we talk about James, we talk about Tobias. DeAnthony Melton is a problem. He's shooting the ball very well. He's getting more confident and comfortable in that system. And, when you start to go down the pecking order and you have this guy who's just ready to go, when all that attention is on everybody else, this guy can make a play for you. He can score a bucket. He can knock down a 3. He can get it to the hoop. He can do a lot of things.
Just when it comes to him in the flow of an offense. And that's probably why he fit so well in that starting lineup when Tyrese Maxiell was out.
Yeah, and I don't think he knew his role with this group when the Raptors played them the first few times. So things have significantly changed. The Raptors will have to look at a better DeAnthony Melton this time. And the people responsible for watching out for all these guys, of course, the players. We hand you off to the players right now.
All right, how are you feeling about this road trip?
It's a road trip. Obviously, we'd rather play at home, but feeling pretty good about it. I feel like we've been playing really well lately. We just got to transfer it over to the road and come out with some good performances there.
When it comes to Joel Embiid, of course, he's quite the task to guard. What stands out to you about his game and the first threat that he presents?
It's just the duality between him being very physical and athletic, and then at the same time having really good touch and being a very skillful player. So you got to figure out a way to guard both. And it's going to take a team effort, but I think we're prepared for it.
Does it feel much different now compared to maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where if you took a 16-footer, maybe it's okay, I could live with that. And now at the rate he's hitting it, is it just I got to do something more to prevent that?
I'd say every team has different strategies in guarding it. Some team, I'd say we prefer to be on the aggressive side. Yeah. Try and get the ball out of his hands. Try and let somebody else make a play. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of different mentalities. Some teams are going to be take the less effective shot, even though he's making it a very high percentage. Other teams are going to be more like us, I guess.
Are you guys kind of pretty excited about this road trip? Tough opposition. Even Charlotte's playing pretty well, but a lot of stuff at stake every game. Right there for you.
Yeah, it's good for us. We've been in this mode for a couple weeks now, where we need all of them. So, we've had our struggles on the road this year. It'd be a good opportunity to go get some wins and get some tough wins, tough teams. 2 of the better teams in the NBA this year, and Charlotte is playing as good as anybody in the last couple weeks. It's a great trip for us.
Why do you think the road trip is such a problem for you guys this year? Any theories?
Yeah, I don't know, Mike. I really don't know. But all I can say is, I think we just focus on the work that's in front of us. We can't do anything about what we've done so far. I think we're a different team today than we have been all year, and so we just got to focus on that and keep trying to make strides from game to game, practice to practice, and I like where we are right now.
You guys, over the years, have had so many different looks toward Embiid, and very much frustrated him at times.
Yeah.
How different will it be with Yak there? Not that it's ever one-on-one, but to maybe allow for a bit less of that chaos.
Yeah, it's another body at least, another body to throw at him. So we've thrown a ton of different coverages and different personnel at him, and Yak, we'll throw him in the mix and see how that changes things for us. But definitely not going to give you the game plan right now, but I think that obviously having a bigger body, a taller body out there to help at least contest and rebound and be able to box out and do some things, I think that will help us a little bit.
Does Embiid qualify as one of those bigs that does he play in a drop a lot? And when he does play in a drop, is he one of those guys you can kind of picked apart a little bit?
They mix it up a little bit. I think, again, I think he's such a great offensive player. I think he picks his spot defensively. I mean, certainly has the capability to be an outstanding defender, and he's not a slouch on that end. He's just by his size alone. You know, he's big enough to just stand in the paint, which is what he does most of the night, is just stand in the paint and scare people. But yeah, he's got his capability, but there'll be opportunities. You know, he's not going to play super crazy defense the whole night. So we got to be able to try to find our spots to take advantage of, you know, his guys screening and setting and rolling and just stay aggressive throughout the course of the game.
All right, as we look ahead, next game mentality, next game, Sherm, is the Charlotte Hornets. And I want to check in on this Charlotte Hornets group because obviously they're kind of stuck in the position they're in, but they are also without their main man in Mr. Ball. So when you look at this group, where do they fit into the future of this Eastern Conference? Like, are they in a place where they're stable enough to build with this core as they move forward?
I don't think they're good enough as presently constituted, even with Ball in the lineup. He's a difference maker, though, and there's no doubt about it. But I just think they're missing some more tangible pieces. You know, Rozier, he is what he is. He's a good player. He can score the basketball. Does he get you to the next level? Not necessarily. But I think they're missing – and Kelly Oubre Jr. has done a great job this season. When he's been healthy, he's been excellent. But I think they're missing – that piece, that other piece, maybe it's a more veteran piece that can still provide that leadership plus play on the floor to help this team get to the next level. But they've got some good young pieces, that's for sure. But they're always going to be a challenge. They're going to be a challenge because they play hard.
It feels like they're missing some culture guys. When I think about their roster, I'm like, well, I like P.J. Washington. I like Kelly Oubre Jr. I like LaMelo Ball, obviously. I like J.T. Thor, the way he's playing. Kai Jones. You know, Terry Rozier's a guy that goes and gets it on the offensive end. I've always liked him. So
they have what's left of Gordon Hayward.
They have what's left. And Gordon Hayward's solid, serviceable for sure. I
Definitely not the player he used to be.
Yeah, maybe there's somebody in the draft that puts them over the edge. There's definitely one or two
I don't
guys.
know if youth is the answer unless it's that dude.
Yeah, unless
if
it's Victor.
It's that dude,
right?
that Victor dude.
Yeah, they become an Eastern Conference contender right away. In my opinion.
But the problem is Charlotte's never really been a major player in free agency or a destination for players in this league.
No, but if you lose consistently, you get guys in the draft, and they when you just round out their roster, they've got players for sure. And I don't know, they could be, if they get Victor.
Yeah.
They'll be major players in the Eastern Conference.
Odds aren't forever in their favor currently with their situation.
Yeah.
As not being one of the bottom.
10%?
Yeah, 10% right now currently.
Instead of 14% for being last. It's not that different.
Yeah, the NBA lottery isn't weighted the way it used to be, so it's a little bit more fair to the teams who aren't situated directly at the bottom. But now, look at the situation they're in. They're a threat to this Toronto Raptors team, even though they really can't do much damage in the playoffs or kind of improve their position if they lose for the draft. So talk about those types of teams, Randy. You ever been on a team that really didn't have a chance of doing any damage come postseason time, but still? Any
team I'm on always had a chance.
Okay, so this is foreign land to you.
Any intramural team I was on. No, I just think Charlotte's, they're the most dangerous that they've been all season because I don't think, as we saw on that board, they can't go down or up. They're basically locked into that fourth best record.
So the pressure's off this group.
Completely no pressure. And you're seeing guys come in having like career games like J.T. Thor the other night against Dallas. He's shooting threes. He's 6'9". He's averaging like 16 points in his last few. Kai Jones is playing well. Man, I said this yesterday on the show. You know those games where you're like, the end of the season, you're like, okay, I'm really just going to let myself go here.
You're getting tape for your agent.
Yeah, because nothing matters. I've worried all season long. I'm just going to play free, and that's what they're doing right now. And I think that's what makes them so dangerous here down the stretch.
Yeah, beware of teams that have nothing to lose, right? And Charlotte's in that situation where it really doesn't matter schedule-wise or standing-wise what happens, but all those guys are NBA players.
Yep.
They have pride. They're going to be coached to win games. That's the nature of the beast. So you just, the whole spoiler thing.
I was going to say, both
guys, they just play hard. This group is a young group, a younger group that needs to learn how to play, especially together. So these are valuable minutes and valuable games for this team. And I think that's that's going to be the approach of Charlotte, and the Raptors have to be very aware of that.
You have to be super solid, right? You have to not get in. I don't think you get into an up and down game with them, even though the Raptors' strengths are transition, offense, and steal. I think you got to still go through your sets and use your experience and your veteran presence to kind of wear them down, right? That's how I think you approach it. You don't try to get into this run and gun game with them.
All right, now let's talk about this Raptors group quickly and dynamic duos. In terms of this current makeup of the squad, what are the pairs of players that you're most intrigued by as we move towards the final stretch of the season? Sure.
I really, really like Jakob Poeltl and Fred VanVleet, the way they operate in the screen and roll. I mean, as a point guard, I can appreciate what's happening and the decision-making from both players, how to create the passing lanes, understanding where the ball needs to be. I just think that Fred has a real big who's going to roll hard to the basket, present big, or he's going to short roll. And Fred is confident when he gives him the ball that the decision coming after that is going to be a good one. And as a ball handler, you need that guy who, when you kick it to him, you want not only a good decision, you want a quick decision. You don't want a hesitation, allows the defense to catch up. Now your whole flow offensively is stunted. And I think those two guys have found some really good stuff, whether it's a short roll or roll to the basket.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, I also just like when it's not Fred and it's Scotty initiating the offense, the way that he plays so unselfishly and the way that he's obviously a lot bigger than a lot of ball handlers so he can see over the top. I just love the way he reacts with everybody on the floor.
Scotty and everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way if he gets into the high post and he looks like he's going to shoot or something, if you get behind the defense, I saw a couple times where Yak got behind the defense and just flashed to the net, Scotty found him. Like that play can happen, I think, more often than it does if guys are just moving off the ball more. So I love the way Scotty sees the floor, and I love the way that he can operate with anybody that's moving with him, right? That's the whole key. As soon as you see him driving, somebody go, right? Somebody go, and you're going to get a bucket.
Really easy guy to play off of.
Yeah.
Final road trip of the year. This is it. The Toronto Raptors match up with the Sixers, and then a pair of games with the Charlotte Hornets. But Friday night at 7 p.m., you can catch the Toronto Raptors at 7 p.m. taking on potentially Randy's MVP, Joel Embiid. We don't know.
Potentially. We'll see how I feel.
Find out. Yeah. That does it for us this week. We thank you for tuning in as always. This is Raptors Today.